Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you across North America, in Europe, India, and beyond. We're delighted to have you with us today. And I am Alan Blake. I am the PAC US Director, and I'll be moderating the opening webinar. And this based flexible packaging. I'm really excited to be able to moderate the session today with Ashley. As you know, there is a huge focus on packaging waste reduction, with reuse and refill being extensively explored and tested across retail platforms. So it's great that Ashley is with us today to be able to talk about their refill program in Chile with Algramo, as well as their Beyond the Bag initiative and the Walmart in-home delivery programs. So please, before we start, let me remind you to put your comments in the chat box, and any questions, please put them in the Q&A box, and you'll see those at the bottom of your screens. With that said, I'd now like to introduce Ashley Hall. Ashley is a Director of Sustainability for Walmart Stores, Inc., based in Bentonville, Arkansas. She works with Walmart associates, suppliers, NGOs, and other organizations on nature, plastic, and packaging issues. Ashley is focused on helping increase the adoption of sustainable and regenerative practices in supply chains, reduce the use of unnecessary plastic, and accelerate Walmart's private brand commitments to achieve 100% recyclable, reusable, and compostable packaging. And yes, Ashley has some spare time, and you can find her with her nose in a good mystery novel or playing outside with her two boys. Ashley, it's wonderful to have you with us, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Let me just get my presentation up here. Thank you very much for the warm welcome, and it's really a pleasure to be here today. As Ellen said, I'm Ashley C. Hall. I go by Ashley C. Hall because there are many Ashley Halls that work for Walmart, so if you want to reach me, remember the C. I've just returned from maternity leave. I have a new 4-month-old at home, so it's a pleasure to be able to engage with many of you again if you've missed me over the past few months. So today I'm going to talk about Walmart's work in sustainability, specifically on reuse and refill models. But I'd be remiss if I didn't start with a general review of what are Walmart's commitments and how are we working towards progress. So globally, we have commitments around using less plastics, making our packaging recyclable, reusable, and compostable. And specifically in the US and Canada, we also have initiatives focused on labeling and making it easy for customers to know what can and can't be recycled. We are members of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's New Plastics Economy and their global commitments. So many of our major goals for our private brands are similar to what you will see from other major companies, which we are excited about. We think it's really important to have consistent goals and definitions to help create an understanding of what does it mean to be recyclable and how are we going to think about reuse, etc. And so we have been actively working on meeting our commitments. So just to recap, we have a 20% post-consumer recycled content goal specific for Canada and the US, a 17% post-consumer recycled content goal for our global business. We're working on not only labeling our packaging, but also making sure that we're using packages that can be recyclable, reusable, compostable, and avoiding materials such as PVC that are very difficult to recycle. And whenever possible, we work to encourage our national brand suppliers to join us on this effort. And so we use our Project Gigaton platform, which is our platform focused on reducing 1 billion metric tons of greenhouse gases by 2030, as the platform to capture a lot of the great goals and commitments and progress that companies are doing on areas that help us reduce greenhouse gases, of which packaging is one. Additionally, you can see here on the left-hand side, a few years ago, we came out with the Walmart Recycling Playbook, and it was recently updated earlier this spring. We leverage the Playbook, which is available both in the US and Canada and has been translated and fixed to work for different markets across our company to really understand what packages can be designed to be recyclable, which ones really are not designed to be recyclable based on the definitions, and which ones there are no solutions for. We don't know what the future will hold, but we know that there's active work going on in those spaces. And so I encourage, if you have not already considered looking at that information, to do so. It's available on our sustainability website, which is walmartsustainabilityhub.com. What you will also find on the Sustainability Hub is public reporting on our packaging goals. It's essential that we not only set goals, but that we are transparent in how things are going. And so what you can see here on the left-hand side of your screen, and apologies that it's kind of small print, but you can zoom in on Zoom or look on the website for more detail. But as of our last year, we are at 55% towards our 100% recyclable, reusable, and compostable goal globally. And we are at roughly 9% for our post-consumer recycled content specific for plastic packaging in our private brands. In the US, you can see here some additional information in terms of how we're using the How to Recycle label. So in the US, we're roughly 50%. Sam's Club is a little bit further behind at 38%. We are at 97% PVC free across our general merchandise business. And we are at 70% or 7%, pardon me, post-consumer recycled content for our private brand plastic packaging here in North America. So that would include the US, Canada, and Mexico. So you've seen our goals, and as we've thought about what does it mean to focus on reuse or to focus on recycling or composting or reduction, what do those all mean? Hopefully this slide is familiar to you all. It comes from a report that came out last year focused on breaking the plastic wave by Pew and the Systemic. And what we really like here is that the science they've pulled together shows it takes all of these solutions to really address and break that plastic wave. So recycling alone will not solve the issue. Reduction alone, unfortunately, won't solve the issue too, because in some cases we really need to use plastics. Plastics are not necessarily a bad material. In others, we can substitute out of plastic to an alternative material. And there's really an important element in avoiding mismanaged waste, which especially in some countries that don't have the waste management system is a larger problem. And so we will be focusing for the rest of the conversation on the reuse refill element, but it's really important as you're thinking about solutions in the future of packaging to consider all of these areas, because it really will take all of them to address the plastics and waste issues today. Last year at our Sustainable Packaging Milestone meeting, we announced, and it was such a great pleasure, that we are becoming a regenerative company. And that means specific for waste that we are working towards circular economy. I know many of you are packaging experts, but for those of you who aren't or who think that the word circular economy is a little bit too wonky, hopefully this helped illustrate what that means. And so it means for us that we are looking at all of these different touch points to identify how can we think about the materials we're using in a very thoughtful way and ensure that we are reducing waste as much as possible. And so that includes our operations, what we can control in our own space. It means we have to innovate. We have to pilot and test, fail, learn, grow. It means that we need to work with our suppliers to change and improve their packaging and to try to innovate with us. In that goes design. Design is a fundamental opportunity for us to improve how we think about not only the products use, but the packaging use. And whenever possible, work across a range of different organizations to think about how we reduce waste in terms of infrastructure and education. With customers, not only is it about making sure that they think about things like the blue bin, but also about how they take on new reuse models. Reusable bags have been around for a while, but how many people forget them when they walk into their store? How do we change that behavior? How do we incentivize customers to think differently? Because it really takes all of us in order to move towards a circular economy, and it benefits all of us as well if we are able to successfully. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the fun stuff, which I know you guys really care about because, really it's not about just all the stuff you've probably heard before. So we're going to talk specifically about 3 different reuse and refill models. And we're going to start with El Gramo. So you can see here the El Gramo image down on your lower right-hand side. These are in 3 of our stores, and they're 3 refill stations, and we're focused on our leader private brand products, specifically detergents, fabric softeners, dishwashers, and floor cleaners. And what we do is we incentivize our customers to engage by giving them allowing them to save up to 10% per purchase through this program. So when you think of Walmart's motto, it's, save money, live better. And so it's really, how do we bring that crux together in terms of helping the customer? We are expecting, based on the pilot that is going on in Chile, that we will remove 3,850 single-use plastic containers. And we will be doing that by leveraging what these are, which are the smart packaging container technology. So these are not just your average containers. And I know earlier in your meeting, you talked about other new packaging technologies. Well, this is another one and a different one. And this one focuses on educating and bringing the customer along on how are they purchasing? How are they going to manage their future refills? Can they pay more conveniently using smart packages? And most importantly, well, in my opinion, learning about the environmental impact as they're shopping. And so that's what this smart technology allows. And we have already distributed 1,500 smart refills as part of the program, free to customers as a way to kick off the work. What I will say about this program is that it really aligns not only with, focusing on plastics and packaging, but also our broader regenerative goals and our work around greenhouse gases and climate emissions. And so, this is something that we are really proud of and excited to see take off. I'm now going to shift to talk about in-home delivery. And this is something that's taking place in the US, specifically with roughly about 1 million people in Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Vero Beach, Florida, and Northwest Arkansas, which is where I live. And these are some photos straight from Walmart.com website, and it shows about the convenience and ease for customers to get their products delivered to their houses. And I have to say, it is a joy to not have to go into a store and even pull up my car, and instead have my groceries delivered. Especially having a toddler and a 4-month-old at home, it just makes it a world easier to do this. And so what you can see here is that they are using reusable containers to bring in products. It is something that helps us get rid of excess packaging. And it's our hope that as we grow, and because this is a subscription service, that this is something that really expands, and we can do more piloting and more innovation in terms of how do we leverage refills and reuse. I would say so far, what I have heard is that the feedback has been good. And so continue to look for this as we pilot in different regions in different ways, reuse and refill. The last area I will talk about, and I'm leaving plenty of room for questions, is the Beyond the Bag initiative. And for those of you who are not familiar with Beyond the Bag brings together Walmart, CVS, Target, Dick's Sporting Goods, Dollar General, Kroger, TJX, Albertsons, Ahold Delhaize, Hy-Vee, Meijer, Wakeford, and Walgreens, a who's who of a lot of US retailers, brings them together with NGOs to identify how can we get out of and innovate out of the single-use plastics bag. And this work spans 3 years. There's many different work streams. What has been happening so far is a real lean in on what are the innovations in this space. And that's been done through the Global Challenge launch. Now, and what we'll talk about in a minute, is how it moves forward. What's that roadmap look like? How do you actually create the infrastructure to activate these types of initiatives? In total, 455 different submissions came in from 60 countries. And there are, as you can see, 9 winning solutions present, and they are through a different spectrum, right? So what you can see here is innovative materials. So 3 of these are looking at how do we get out of the basic polymers? How do we move to a stretchable fiber bag that can hold up to 44 pounds, which is crazy to me? How do we think of compostables using starch or seaweed-based bags? In reusable, it's thinking about how do we address that issue of customers forgetting their bags when they walk into a store. Well, the Chico bag option and the Goa tote allow you to rent these bags and bring them back. There's opportunities to further sanitize them. Chico bag is machine washable at your house if you want, or we know that there are ways that could be done to create a closed loop system of washing and sanitizing. Returnity is exciting for both a B2B solution in terms of distribution to and from your stores, as well as for an e-commerce solution where these types of packages go to customers at their house, and how can they be returned through the system. I don't know about you, but especially during COVID, we bought a lot of things online, and we are aware of how much waste we create, especially when we stay at home so often. These final ones under enabling technologies, I'm in particular excited about because it's how do we energize the customer? So both Fill It Forward and Connected USC are focused on gamifying and creating interactions with the customer to encourage them to bring back the bag, to think about gaining points, to beating their fellow shoppers, and leading in terms of how much they reuse. Circular ID is a slightly different method. It focuses more on how do we trace what's the actual material, the technical capability to trace these different products or packaging, and it's a really interesting tool that should ideally be connected with a customer engagement platform. So when we think of these different beyond the bag initiatives, we need to take a holistic approach. And this is very similar to the slide I shared earlier around the circular economy. If you see, it's not just about retailers, it's not just about brands, it's not just about packaging manufacturers. It takes customers, it takes policy manufacturers, it takes the value chain. It does take us, but it also takes the innovative concepts. And how do we work on each of these areas to understand what the lift would take to get us to not only pilot, but to ultimately be able to expand and scale these types of programs? I think what's interesting is as we think about how retailers how retailers think about reuse systems, it can really vary. It can vary by market, depending upon how the customer likes to shop, how the customer perceives value and convenience, but it can also be impacted based on different types of products and packages that are being purchased. So when you think about how reuse could fit in with something like grocery, which is fresh food, or stable foods that you buy on a regular basis, versus something like sports and general merchandise, which we don't buy as much as frequently, so it's a lower turn. Those might take 2 different approaches in terms of how we think about reuse or refill. As we think about curbside, food to go, convenience options, home delivery, prescriptions, all of those have different policy implications in terms of what can be allowed based on the locations you live, but also what the needs are of the customer, because it's not a one shop fits all approach. And that's how Walmart thinks about this. We think about this in an omni-channel approach. We know our customers sometimes like to go in the store. They like to grab fresh milk and eggs. Sometimes they want to pick their own bananas to make sure they're as green or as yellow or brown as they want them to be. But we also know that they want the convenience of pickup, of in-store or in-home delivery, etc. So how do we create options that can work across a range of different solutions? And that's really the journey that we're on today. And so as you think about what are those opportunities and what are those customer points, that's really where our mindset is now. And that's hopefully what you're seeing from the different types of engagements and examples here, is that we are looking differently at point of sale. We're looking at, local delivery. We're looking at pickup and how that works. We're thinking about the technologies that are needed, the new materials that can be used. How does that impact the equipment that the machines are being produced on? How many times do you need to use a reusable product or package in order to really make sure that the life cycle assessment is there? All of those things are being considered. And it takes all of these things to work to really get these things off the ground. It's one thing to pilot, it's another thing to scale. And I think that's what's exciting, is the desire to try many different things and see what really sticks. So I will end by just saying, again, thank you for this opportunity. Let's stay connected. We annually host a sustainable packaging event. It's typically in the fall, usually around November. But you can see here, we've also had a range of different learning sessions that we host, often based on the list of participants from our annual packaging event. The packaging event is open to anyone and everyone. The information is available typically on our Walmart Sustainability Hub.com. Keep checking it. There's new material constantly being added there. When I first started at Walmart, now almost 7 years ago, the first thing I was told was, go to Walmart Sustainability Hub.com and learn everything there, because we truly try to put as much information and resources there and make it as transparent as possible, because it just makes life easier if we're all working from the same things. So take a look at the website. Keep in touch. We hope you will join us for our next Sustainable Packaging Summit and follow-up webinars that will happen in the future. And so with that, I will say thank you, and I'm open for questions.
Ashley, thank you so much for that great overview. And I'll just remind all of our attendees, please, if you can put your questions into the Q&A box, that would be absolutely great. So I'm going to start off with a few questions about, several aspects here. But first and foremost, Walmart is seen as a leader in so many of these aspects of sustainable packaging. And you shared a very comprehensive program that clearly requires extensive collaboration across the value chain. So I was wondering if you could just share some high-level thoughts with us on, how Walmart makes this happen. Because, you talked in one instance of an extensive collaboration there in terms of the bag program. And, that's often tough to do. So what does it take to get these things moving ahead on the journey?
That's a great question. I think of it two ways, right? So you can go alone and you can go fast, or possibly faster, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work in the long term across different areas. And so I think sometimes you can just pilot things on your own, see how they work, share the learnings after, and hope others will consider doing similar pilots. Other times it makes sense for organizations to try to address these things. When it comes to something like the Beyond the Bag initiative, plastic bags, single-use plastic bags that customers take home has been an obstacle and concern for a while. There's no one easy solution that's identified, and it cross-cuts so many different customers in so many different areas. It really makes sense to work in a pre-competitive manner to identify what opportunities there are. We engage in a range of different organizations like the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's New Plastics Economy and Global Commitment. I mentioned earlier, what we love there is so many times we get questions on what does the definition of recyclability mean, right? Like, what is recyclable? And when I talk to people at parties, they're like, oh, that's what me and my husband or me and my partner fight about is this or isn't this recyclable? And it shouldn't be that way, especially as companies are setting these big goals. There shouldn't be a question of, well, what do you actually mean by recyclable? Is it technically recyclable? Is it, so having organizations like an Ellen MacArthur Foundation also provide value because they're saying, okay, this is the definition of which everyone is measuring and reporting progress against. And that helps create consistency and clarity, especially for those who aren't wonky and in the weeds on these kinds of things.
Okay, thanks, Ashley. I think this conversation goes into another area, and innovation has been a theme throughout your presentation. And there's a couple of questions on innovation and relating it to the goals and commitments, and in particular, this great playbook that you have. And a concern that was expressed, does this mean we have to have standard packaging everywhere? And I don't think you're saying that, but I'd certainly welcome any comments that you have as you think about the innovation program at Walmart and making sure that you can achieve your sustainability goals.
Sure. So when we started our commitment around recyclability and our goal around recyclability actually came from 2016. We updated it in 2018 to align with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's commitment on reusable, compostable, and recyclable as well. One of the most common questions we got asked was, so what is it to be recyclable? What makes a package recyclable? What isn't recyclable? And we would hear from suppliers, just tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. I thought this was recyclable, but now you're telling me it's not. What does this mean? And we're actually not the ones telling. It goes through how to recycle. They assess the package, they get a label. But there was a lot of questions about what makes something recyclable. And so that's what the recycling playbook is intended to do. It's intended to say, if you want to use a bottle, these are all the materials that you can use that, the technical experts, how to recycle through Sustainable Packaging Coalition, the Recycling Partnership, the Association of Plastic Recyclers for the US and Canada say, yep, this will, meet recyclability, or this will create potential challenges. And it really is just intended to provide clarity on what are and aren't the issues. I like to say, I met my husband 10 years ago talking about labels and adhesive recycling issues in plastic packaging. 10 years ago, but we still are talking about this. So, how do we move that forward? We love APR's design guidance, but we also know that a lot of our suppliers were not reading it in detail and didn't have the technicality to understand it in detail. So that's another reason why, as we tried to simplify, it's an 80+ page document. So how simple is it? But that's really what we're trying to do here, is provide, best practices pulled from all of these organizations to provide the data, to provide the resources for companies to make appropriate choices on their own as they go through their sustainable packaging journey.
Thank you. And following on that as well, because we're talking about reuse refill systems here, and we've got a great question here from Marie-Christine Thibault. What are the obstacles to the establishment of reuse programs offered by a stakeholder at a large retailer store like Walmart? And what efforts do you have to put in to kind of centralize things? And she mentions in particular, if you're looking at refill and reuse systems, do you have to centralize things like the cleaning process and other aspects of this? What are your thoughts on that, Ashley?
We've thought a lot about cleaning. I'm sure everyone has thought a lot about cleaning since COVID and the pandemic. Health and safety of our customers and our associates is always top of mind. as we think about reuse pilots and refill pilots, they happen in different ways, right? So um, I didn't even share with you guys what's on our store shelves in terms of concentrates and you know, packages that you can shift to that where you don't have to buy new bottles. And some of those have been available for years. Others are coming to market, and how those are presented and shown um, on our store shelves and modulars varies. That's a similar kind of approach as we think about these broader reuse platforms. So, for instance, in the US with our in home delivery, it's four different cities, four different ways of, four different types of people. People in Pittsburgh are a little different than people in Northwest Arkansas, and I imagine a little bit different than the people in Florida. So, how do we look at the different types of behaviors of the different customers, learn from them, and then from there think about piloting? It could be a regional approach, and not just from a national or provincial perspective, right? So what might work in British Columbia might not necessarily work in Quebec. And then I would say, the biggest thing is we just have to try. We have to see what works. We have to learn from what works. And then we have to hopefully, iterate off of that, because things that sometimes didn't work in the past 10 years ago just because it wasn't the right time. Plastics and packaging is such a bigger focus for customers. We hear it from our customer insight data as well as for policymakers, and just general education and media and news reports. It's getting a lot of attention, and so what didn't work 10 years ago might work now. And so, how do we thoughtfully approach those things in a way that brings the customer along, which is critical? If the customer doesn't buy into it, if the customer doesn't engage, it's not sustainable because it doesn't actually grow as we need it to.
Thanks, Ashley. That's a great perspective. I think we'll start talking more directly now about some of the systems you talked about here. And I'd like to start with the refill system in Chile. And just the obvious question, what prompted Walmart to run a trial on reuse refill in Chile? And, are there plans to expand these trials to the USA?
So Chile made a lot of sense because Algramo was already working in Chile, and so there was a natural engagement that started between the two companies. I would say that in terms of expanding to other geographies, it's something that is talked about. There's a lot that we try to learn from our markets, though. We try to learn and see what works. What do we know of the similarities between how our market shoppers act and what are the differences? And that goes vice versa for things like the in-home delivery, right? What works, what doesn't, how do we expand and grow? And so it's a little bit of a wait and see, but I'd say that whenever any of our markets try something, it's really an exciting opportunity because our leadership team, who are in particular very passionate about addressing plastic waste and packaging, um, they we absolutely play off the different markets and see how we can leverage those pilots to expansion.
Now, the pilot itself, what are the plans for how long you'll run the pilot for, and what are you hoping to read from the Chile consumer? And in particular, an extension of that question is you spoke about the packages being smart. So, how does this smart package work with the Chilean consumer in the store?
Great question. I don't have all the answers to that, and that's partially because I just returned from maternity leave only a couple weeks ago. So forgive me for not having all those answers. But what I can tell you is that, in terms of what does success look like for this, we want to see customer adoption. We want to see customers engaging. We want to understand how they shop. How are their lines? How does cleanliness work? Are we seeing increased sales? We are a business. We sell things. So those are important things that can't be overlooked. We are not a non-for-profit. So it has to be successful in that way. The smart packaging, there's an app that Algrama Hey, sorry about that. Can you all hear me now?
Ashley, I'm back, and I think you're back.
Sorry about that.
And sorry on my part too. So I think we were talking about that consumer interface and the consumer learning with the smart package.
Yes. So I'll just repeat my answer because that'll probably be easiest. So I just returned from maternity leave. I don't have all the answers to these questions. My apologies there. But what I can say is, in terms of what does success look like for customers, it's really about how are customers engaging? Are there increased sales? Are there long lines to use, the service? We don't want to inconvenience our customers. We want this to be a good, positive experience. How are the health and safety impacts? How does COVID impact? Hopefully, it doesn't. Those are all things that need to be taken into consideration, as well as the engagement with the app and the user experience there. Again, I don't have all the information here, but we always think about how do we pilot and test smart technologies, and then think about further ways to incorporate them into the Walmart holistic package. And so that would be a natural next step for us to consider.
Thanks. And that was interesting as I think about this, and I know it's going to be difficult to get a full perspective. But this is something that it's innovative and it's new. It's new for Walmart and it's new for the consumers. So how has Walmart seen facilitating this in stores? Do you have helpers? Hi, Ashley.
Hey, sorry. In our prep, I said this might happen.
I
Hopefully you
know.
can
Are
hear
we
me
having
okay.
fun? It's happening. It's you and me. I don't know. This connection between Las Vegas and Bentonville. We've got something going on here that's kicking us out of the system, but we will survive and we will persevere because we've got a great audience here, and I know they want to hear more. So I think I know where we are. I'm going to continue on the refill system a little bit. Now, obviously, you've started with detergents, fabric softeners, dishwashing liquids, and floor cleaners. But I would imagine that you're imagining many other potential applications here, depending upon how the pilot runs.
Yes, absolutely. When it starts with cleaning products, those typically we don't have to worry about the freshness nearly the same as we would for something like milk, right? So the length of time that it can last on the store shelves is longer, but it's also a product that customers use on a routine basis, especially during COVID. So it allows us to not have to wait too long in between shopping experiences to understand how the customer would use it. If you're thinking of a general merchandise product, so let's say you buy a toaster. How often do you buy a toaster?
once a few years, if, a decade. So that's not a good example of a reusable type of product or package. The next logical one we would think about would be beauty bath type of personal care products. That's another area where you see consistent purchasing. It's a consumable. We consume it on a regular basis. And so that would be a natural next step. But also as we think about things like, stable foods, there's historically, we've done work in other spaces around refill containers for coffees and things like that. And that's certainly something that's actively being discussed.
Just seeing that and seeing that as a possible application in your world.
I only got the last bit of that.
Oh yeah. How is Walmart looking at Loop? Because we had this presentation on Loop the other day, and we're seeing sort of various e-commerce pilots going on there. Is there going to be some engagement between Walmart and the Loop initiative with some of your suppliers, or is this something to watch?
It's something that we are watching. We know that Loop has already started with a number of other retailers, and that as part of agreements those retailers made, has been you have to wait a certain period before others can join. And
Okay.
so there's been a bit of a wait and see based on that. I'd say that in general around this space, the more that any company can pilot these things and share their learnings, not only the successes, but also what hasn't worked, is critical. We need to, learn from each other, because if we're going to achieve our big, ambitious, hairy goals by 2025, we need to do so in a way that, allows us to learn from others. And so I'm excited to learn more. I've heard really great things about how Loop is progressing. It's my hope that that kind of format continues to expand.
Great, thank you. And then just, the awkward question, because, you and I have been talking about these things for a long time, and we've seen reuse and refill systems come and go. Is this just another fad, or is this real this time?
I sure hope it's real. I don't know about how you guys feel, but with 2 little kids and all that's going on in the world, I think the future generations are really mindful of that. And COVID is just another example of how our interdependencies on our resources, on nature, on climate, all amplify what is going on, and what can start and be an issue in one area can expand. And so, those are my personal beliefs. I do think that plastics and packaging has been a hot topic for a while. It hasn't gone, down in interest. And in fact, you could say that it's only grown in interest. So I don't see this going away anytime soon. Do I see us being all in on reusables all the time? Yes. I think it's, as I mentioned before, it's a range of different opportunities. So there will be recycling, there will be reuse, there will be reduction. Hopefully there's a sharing economy. Hopefully there's an improved composting system. We need them all to start effectively working in order to make it work.
Okay, I'm with you, absolutely. And I really hope, this is all part of the journey. And I want to convenient. I'd love to hear more about your thinking here, and how ultimately you see this working. Is this really absolutely store to fridge? In this day of COVID, the consumer doesn't have to touch anything. And what is your imagination? What are you imagining that ultimately this could possibly be?
I lost you for a little bit, so I want to repeat what I heard.
Okay.
So in-home delivery,
Mm-hmm.
Convenience for the customer, store delivery. What does the future hold?
Mm-hmm. That's about it.
Okay. It's interesting because if you myself personally, when I first thought about in-home delivery, I thought, really, like, I don't know. But when people try it, um, there's a lot of appreciation for it. And so, and I can say, just again, not having to go to the store, not even having to go, pull up somewhere to get the groceries put in my car, makes a difference. And, there's a lot of exciting possibilities here. So not only are we delivering groceries and either putting them in someone's fridge, which might be in their garage if they have a fridge out there, or in their house, and there's video where you can watch the experience real time, or afterwards. There's also the opportunity to pick up things that need to be returned to the store. And so that could be reusable containers in the future, but it's also just, it helps with our e-commerce business as well, as we think about purchasing, and frankly, with greenhouse gases, how people are using their cars to drive to and from locations for things like returns and purchases. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity here. I personally think that the service is fantastic and hope it grows, as we've seen pickup grow significantly over the last couple of years.
Thanks, Ashley. I want to move on to the Beyond the Bag initiative. My first impression is, are you mad? This is a huge initiative in terms of these 9 programs that you pulled together. So first, I'd like to understand how you set things up to select the 9 winners. And then I'll add a question after that. That's the first one. So how did you pull this program together, and who helped you select these 9 winners?
Yeah, so this is not a Walmart program. So Walmart is a part space to pull it together. And it was a process to go through all of these submissions and choose them. I think ultimately the next step is, how do we take and pilot these ideas? And I mean, if we're going to set crazy ambitious targets, we need to try crazy ambitious programs to get things to work. And there needs to be solutions out there that get us away from the convenience, but also the waste, if not properly recycled, of using plastic bags. Now, just so you can, here in the US, recycle those plastic bags at many of your Walmart retail stores. We do that all the time. And in some communities, you can recycle at your blue bin in certain countries. So just know that as well. But there are those solutions being looked at.
So I'm sure you've mapped these solutions across all of your retail outlets and, and access to consumers. So first, how have you mapped it? And secondly, just a personal thing, do you have a favorite here amongst all of these?
So we have looked at the 9 different solutions, and we've thought to ourselves, okay, where can these be used? I spoke about this a little earlier in my presentation. What fits really well for grocery might be different than consumables, might be different than, home delivery, and so forth. So, not all 9 fit in each of those categories of what would work for pharmacy or what would work for curbside, but many solutions fit across several of them. So it's, there's cross-cutting solutions here that can be used for different types of products across different types of businesses, which is exciting. Because we know our customers like to shop in different ways, and that the products they're using have different purposes. And the package is always supposed to protect the product, Alan. We can't lose sight of that. Packaging has value. It's just, how do we do it in a less wasteful way? Oh, in terms of what is most exciting, I mean, I don't want to bias people because, I wear a Walmart hat, but if I take that off from an Ashley C. Hall perspective, I'm really excited about the customer engagement element. I think, a lot that manufacturers, retailers, and brands can do is in the design and the infrastructure and the offering to customers. But ultimately, every single one of us is a customer. Every single one of us uses these materials or makes decisions to bring our own reusable bags. And how do we empower people to have these kinds of things not be confusing? Recycling is confusing enough, right? How do we make reuse not only convenient, but interesting and exciting for kids and for our future generations? So those technologies are what I'm most excited about, but those might not be the things that really take off, and that's okay. We just need some things to take off and to continue to improve year over year.
Right. Thank you. And that was the right answer. I agree with you. Don't pick a favorite. Let them play out. But I'm fascinated as well with the customer consumer engagement. So I think these are exciting times. Let me ask you another question here. Getting back in now to the holistic approach, and there are several things going on in North America right now, which I know Walmart are engaged in. But I'd certainly want to get your perspective on what role you see the US Plastic Pact and/or the Canada Plastic Pact playing in helping Walmart and your customers to achieve the Walmart sustainability goals.
Yes, we are very supportive of the PACs, as we are. The PACs are part of the broader Ellen MacArthur Foundation's New Plastics Economy, and really take that global commitment and regionalize it so that hopefully each of the different countries can really make significant progress in a way that's meaningful for where they live and operate. How can that be of value? So there are so many different organizations working on a range of different topics, but how many of them talk amongst each other and really bring everything together to say, this needs to happen by then with these people in order to have XYZ happen? What does the roadmap for success look like? How are companies like Walmart and others going to achieve these crazy goals that we've set up? We think that it's possible. Otherwise, we wouldn't have signed them up, but we need to know what are all the things that need to happen? Who are the actors in each of involves customers, et cetera. So what does that look like? And reporting progress. We think that's critical. We annually report progress. We are reporting progress right now to the US Plastics Pact for this coming year. And it's exciting that we're going to be able to see how others are doing in this space. And, it's something that's important to get a sense of how much of different types of packages do we even make in the US that are or aren't recyclable, or in Canada that are and aren't recyclable? Do we actually know that answer as, broad businesses? I would argue probably not. We know how many PET bottles are manufactured, but how many of them have the right labels and adhesives? How many of them, do not have a PVC label on them? How many of them are, preferred designs? We don't know that in detail. And that would really help us understand how much of a hurdle we have in design versus infrastructure collection versus whatever else the challenge is, so that we can really hone in on those obstacles and create the levers of change that are needed.
And of course, I'm going to ask the obvious follow-up question here, because you highlighted policy, and I know it's not easy to answer, but that we have EPR in Canada, and you're very familiar with the fact that now we have several states looking at introducing packaging EPR. And I'm just wondering, what is your sense as to whether you think this would be helpful, given that it looks as though it's going to go state by state versus a federal approach. So any thoughts you have there on EPR in the US and how on earth you Walmart and others are going to deal with it and leverage it as a positive rather than a hindrance?
That's not as difficult a question as you might think it is, Alan. So, we think policy is critical in order to achieve our goals. And we have signed on to a public document from the Consumer Goods Forum that shows that we are supportive of EPR in principle, and the document outlines what those principles are. But essentially, it's a very thoughtful, well-written piece that talks about, how we see support. And we have active conversations with a range of different stakeholders in the policy space. We share our learnings in terms of where have there been difficulties, and where can we improve in terms of what data we're collecting, the definitions that we're using, what we see as opportunities to advance. So we're trying to come proactively into these conversations. State by state versus federal, that's it's always a topic for discussion, right? So I think any business would like to avoid seeing patchwork policy that creates additional unnecessary burden in terms of reporting, and creates confusion for different manufacturers or customers, but also recognizing that federal action takes time. And, we've got big goals by 2025. And so how do those happen? So recognizing that you can't always get things done federally and state by state, so long as there's thoughtful progress and ways that the laws are being created is something that can really help.
I'm glad to hear it, and I agree with you. It's a positive approach here. And when you talk about your holistic approach, then policy is just an important part of that holistic approach, because otherwise we don't close that circle. Ashley, this has been absolutely fantastic. You have been wonderful, and you have survived some of these issues. So thank you for persevering and being with us. I'd just like to offer you the opportunity to share any final comments or takeaways that you'd like to leave with the audience.
Again, thank you. It's been a pleasure to engage. I hope you found value out of this effort, and I hope that you consider engaging in organizations like the U.S. Plastics Pact or Canadian Plastics Pact and report your progress and share your journey on what has and hasn't been successful, so that we can all learn from each other. Hashtag open source information 2021.
Thank you, Ashley. And I'll just remind our audience that, PAC is deeply involved in this conversation as well. And we're working actively with the Canada Plastics Pact, as you know, Ashley. And we have our PIP 360 tool that we hope that can facilitate some of that reporting. So we have to be part of that holistic approach as well. Well, you've given us a wonderful perspective, a wonderful overview. Welcome back to work. Good luck with the young ones. Please say hi to our wonderful friend and your husband, Leon. And you look well. And again, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Great presentation. All right, Lindsay, and we'll hand it back to you.
Sorry about that, folks. I was locked out there for a moment, and I wanted to just extend my wishes and gratitude to Ashley for coming on. And I know that she's just back to work in the last short period of time, and this project got dumped on her. But, she looked terrific, and I learned so much by listening to her today. Great job, Alan. Thank you. We're going to now move to the final session of the day and our summit. For those of you that don't know me, I introduced myself earlier today. I'm Jim Down, the PAC CEO. And I'm delighted to introduce PAC's newest member, Epact. This is a company that leverages the latest in digital print technology to provide their customers with pardon me, with custom printed pouches and roll stock in 5 to 15 days, with the ability to run multiple SKUs simultaneously and take advantage of low minimum orders. This session is entitled Helping Brands of All Sizes Grow with Digitally Printed Flexible Packaging. This is an incredible story on this revolutionary startup journey as told by a founder, a client, and a technology provider. I'd now like to introduce them individually, and then we're going to start our storytelling. So Carl Joachim is a co-founder and chief marketing officer of Epact Flexible Packaging. Carl has over 25 years of executive marketing, and in 2016, he, along with two business partners, Jack Knott and Virag Patel, created Epact as the first all-digital flexible packaging company in North America, possibly the first in the world. Jack is based in Texas. Ryan Kiley is the Director of Market Development, Epact Flexible Packaging, and he joined there just last November in 2020 and is responsible for the connected packaging portfolio, targeted growth segments, and other solutions. Mac Anderson is the Chief Marketing Officer of Cleveland Kitchen, a client of Epact, whose dressings are world-class and the first fermented dressings of their kind. With a base of fermented vegetables, these dressings bring gut health to your plate in a seamless way. Nathan Anderson is CEO, co-founder of ScanTrust, a supplier to Epact, is a connected goods platform with solutions that help maintain brand integrity through active brand protection, deliver valuable consumer insights, and unlock growth potential in the goods companies sell. Nathan is based in Amsterdam. So without further delay, I'd like to turn it over to Carl and do the introductions. Welcome, Carl. Great to see you.
Oh, thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. It's great to be here. Appreciate the invitation and a chance to talk a little bit about Epact's story and how we've affected small brands, medium-sized brands, even some large brands with our digital printing technology. I'm going to share my screen now and go into a slide deck. So bear with me here. Let's see. That should do it. Does that look good? Everybody see it?
It does.
Great.
Yeah, go for it.
So, okay. So again, my name is Carl Joachim. I'm one of three co-founders of Epact Flexible Packaging. I kind of started looking at the market for digitally printed packaging back in 2013 and hooked up with Jack Knott and Virag Patel. And so we're here to tell our story. A little bit about Epact, but we are clearly, we're the first North American all digital full service printer converter in North America. And possibly worldwide. I think there were a couple of beta sites that HP Indigo initiated when they launched the HP Indigo 20,000, which is the printing platform that we use. But we're a full service printer converter. We focus primarily on small and medium-sized brands, and with that comes short and medium run length jobs. But actually, as I'll go into in my presentation, due to our size, we're actually able to handle longer runs as well. And our value proposition really centers around rapid time to market and producing really high quality packaging so that these small brands can compete with the global brands. Our why is kind of what we're all about. We really began with a mission to provide locally based consumer packaged goods companies with the ability to compete with large brands. Many of these guys, they're local entrepreneurs. They're using blank sacks with stickers on them, and in order to compete and to move into more sophisticated retail channels, they really need great packaging. So with that, our core values really center around providing exceptional customer service to these small businesses that see us really as a lifeline to growing their business. Our focus is in fact on growing our customers' business. And with that comes a responsibility to support the communities that we are located in by giving back. We have a program called Epact Cares. And then, of course, possibly should be right at the top of the list is our focus on sustainability, which I'll touch on briefly in my remarks. I thought I'd kick it off with a short video. It's about 4 minutes long. It's not a video about Epact per se. It's really a story told by our customers. These are 4 entrepreneurs that work with us, and it'll give you a pretty good sense as to how our why is really brought to life.
I went to sleep one night and woke up with this dream that I had, and it was to put whiskey and granola and call it Granarly.
After weighing 315 pounds, I decided to change my diet. By learning about all the junk that's in certain foods and a lot of stuff that I used to flavor my meals, I created Paleo Powder.
We started an LLC, found a shared kitchen, and started to make empanadas in the middle of the night.
Digitally printed flexible packaging is indeed an untapped market. Less than 1% of flexible packaging today is produced digitally. So there is a market that is just beginning to understand what the benefits are to digital printing. My name is Carl Joachim. I'm one of the 3 co-founders of Epact Flexible Packaging. We help small brands achieve big brand presence. These are often young entrepreneurs that are looking not only to go in their own direction in terms of forming a business, but they also have a social conscience and they're trying to bring alternatives to the market.
Paleo Powder is an all-purpose seasoning and breadless breadings that are sugar-free, gluten-free, junk-free, designed to add flavor to any meal that you're cooking with. We started off as a seasoning company, so it was very easy to find bottles and stick a sticker on it. As we switched over to breadless breading, our problem is we didn't know where to start.
We started empanadas about 12 years ago. We care a lot about having the handcrafted quality of our product and using quality ingredients. We were hand packaging the empanadas into these cellophane bags, and it was a classic disaster. When you open up the box, the stickers had all fallen off, bags were breaking.
I've always wanted to start a business, and I dream really big. I was slaving away at night making granola and then selling it the next day. I would design something on my computer and print labels on sticker paper and cut them and paste them on my bags. I just realized we need something that looks amazing and that's ready to seal up and go. Reached out to Epact. We could do smaller runs. It was affordable. It was digital. I was like, yes, 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 and we went for it.
Epact was a game changer for us. We've been able to introduce new fillings and new varieties within a matter of weeks.
We have a really bright, bold, colorful brand, and we got the bags in. They were everything we wanted and more.
We actually got into Whole Foods, which is huge.
We wouldn't have been able to do it without it.
You know, we're in Walmart, we're in Sprouts, the package stands out. And if I come up with an idea, I can have it out and on the shelf and rock and roll in 15 days. For someone to be able to give that to me as a startup and kind of me fighting against the world has just been huge.
We've actually been able to grow the business and hire employees, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without that packaging.
It was really important for us to find a partner that had sustainable packaging, and so we use post-consumer recyclables.
Right away, I get comments on how beautiful my packaging is and how the colors stand out. It has transformed my business. We've had a few larger grocery stores contact us after we've launched these pouches, which has been amazing just because we look ready for that next level. It's changed the whole game for us.
In all of those cities that we're in and cities that we're not in, there are literally thousands of these small and medium-sized brands, these young entrepreneurs that are looking to make a difference. Almost all of them turn into repeat customers. We learn every day about their challenges. We see them with their eyes just wide open, looking to move into a market and know that we can help them. And that is just the most gratifying feeling in the world.
Okay, now let's see if I can keep advancing these slides. So that video is really close to my heart. It's something that we worked on for quite a while, starting last year. COVID kind of got in the way, but it really is gratifying to all of us at Epact when we go into a Whole Foods and we see one of our customers on the shelf, or we watch Shark Tank and we see one of our customers on Shark Tank. So anyway, enough with that, but it does do a good job of personifying our why. So as mentioned in the video, we started the company in 2016 in Madison, Wisconsin. Literally started as a greenfield with no customers. We started to grow actually fairly rapidly. By the end of 2016, we had a second press in Madison. In 2017, we added Boulder. And as you can see by this chart, you know, we've done a lot of growing. I think today we've got, I don't know, it's like over 25 plants that are either in operation, and a handful that are in process. And the international expansion is really something that we're focused on. So that's a little bit about our history. Our core value proposition is what, for those of us that might be familiar with digital printing, I know I am, I've been in it for a long, long time. You can typically get to market a lot quicker. And so for a brand that's used to waiting 6 to 8 weeks, 12 weeks for their packaging, we can ship in 5 to 15 days. You know, the economical short runs and medium length runs is really a huge value prop to our customers. We're able to take the cost out. There's no printing plates involved with digital printing. We print off a PDF. There's very little waste. It's quick setup. We can run multiple SKUs at the same size in line, so there's no changeovers involved with that. Our customers get to order to demand, which is really important for a small business that really has doesn't have a lot of visibility into their you know, prospect chain or their sales chain. And obviously with digital printing as well, variable data printing, variable graphics printing is a real differentiator, and you can literally make every single bag unique and you know, born digital, if you will. And Ryan, Mac, and Nathan are going to go into Epact Connect, which is the solution that we have that really takes advantage of our ability to do variable data printing. And of course, you know, we are always looking for ways to go easier on the environment. So our platform, we'll talk a little bit about that in a second as well, but our platform is very environmentally friendly from an emissions and energy consumption standpoint. And of course, the less obsolescence equals less waste. Value proposition is huge. And as well, we offer sustainable films. We offer recyclable, post-consumer recycled, and compostable films, including a new post-consumer recycled, child-resistant, resealable pouch that was ideal for the CBD and cannabis markets, and really any market that's highly regulated. How we're different, you know, basically it's ship time. It's very quick. Our lowest minimum is not an item count. It's $1,500 for roll stock, $2,500 for finished pouches. Low inventory, low obsolescence, and you can really run a lot of promotions, and you can really target the package to a certain market through our ability to customize it. The markets we serve are pretty broad. It's almost easier to say the markets that we don't serve, but you know, it's obviously food oriented, but some non-food items as well. Cannabis and CBD is a big market for us, as is sports nutrition, pet food, lawn and garden, health and beauty. So a lot of the usual markets that you might see a flexible packaging company going into. And our products, it's really fairly simple. We offer roll stock, really any format that can be made into a pouch, can be printed in roll stock and laminated in roll stock and shipped out. So we do a lot of that. We do an awful lot of finished pouch work. Our small, medium-sized companies, you might suspect, many of them don't have co-packers, co-manufacturers yet. And so the need for finished pouches is pretty strong. We do an awful lot of that. I talked about our sustainable films, and Epact Connect is really our latest offering, if you will. We have a partnership with ScanTrust, who you'll hear from later, and it's our entry into the connected packaging world. The markets we serve, as mentioned, you know, we primarily work with small, medium-sized brands. We help them bring new products to market very, very fast. We help them make changes on the fly. We're able to take cost out, and for those that are getting packaging from overseas, they can eliminate that and the problems that go along with that. Our brands really realize that they have more marketing opportunities. When we speak with brands, the marketing lead is almost always involved in the conversation, because we start talking about promotions and launches and how to differentiate packages and test marketing and brand protection and all those things. And so, clearly those are the top markets for us. And we're beginning to get into larger customers as well. With a fleet like we have of some 25 locations across the world. I think stands at 43 HP Indigo 20,000 printers across the world. We have a network that we can split jobs up across, and so there really isn't any size job that we can't handle. When we get into this idea of variable data or digitally enhanced packaging, again, using the power of being able to print variable data, variable graphics. There's a couple of applications that we have that customers have used. One is Mosaic, which is software that essentially takes a seed file, a graphical seed file. It needs to be kind of colorful and purposeful in terms of what you're trying to create out of it. It dumps it into software, and it kind of creates a kaleidoscope of images. Every package is unique. The example you see here with Scratch Labs is really a customer that was a sponsor of Team EF in the French was it the Tour de France, I should say. And so really what I want to do is turn this over to Ryan, Mac, and Nathan, and let them kind of go into what Epact Connect is all about. So Ryan.
Excellent, and thank you, Carl. Tried to make that transition as smooth as I possibly could. You can hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, great. So Carl really did a good job of laying the foundation there of how we're capable of doing this. You see, Epact being born digital means we have the workflow, we have the pre-press, we have all of the variable data composition tools necessary in order to take advantage of the fact that this is a digital printing platform. It's not just quick turns and low minimums, although that's a big part of it. We've been printing variable data for a very, very long time. What we've done over the past little bit, though, is to productize our offering under Epact Connect, which is our way of bringing unique serialized packaging to those small and medium brands. Any of the large brands on the planet could pay $1 million a year to have access to connected packaging technology to do all sorts of things. We'll discuss what you can do with it. But the small brand really never did. And so we formed a partnership with a company called ScanTrust, who you'll hear a lot more from in a minute. It's a global enterprise platform for creating this connected packaging ecosphere. And we have tailored it to allow the small and medium brands to take advantage of it in a very simple, easy to use, and sometimes even self-service sort of way. We'll tell you a little bit about how that rolls in just a moment. Well, why do you need connected packaging? We heard in the session before, I don't know if there's different attendees, but using connected packaging technology to tell an environmental message, to tell a recycling message. That's only part of it. There's a lot of potential use cases. You just heard 3 customers in that video. You heard Paleo Powder, who wants to tell a story about the health benefits of his product. You heard the empanadas company wanting to tell the story about how they source their ingredients. You heard Granarly, who just wants to grow. Not that she doesn't want to do any of those other things, but she's interested in rapid growth. That's what we call the customer engagement part of connected packaging. But there's much, much more to it than that. You can tell a story that's larger than your brand through the engagement with this platform. There's also product integrity. We're seeing a lot of counterfeit activity around the world, cannabis in particular, where brands' good names are being stomped upon and counterfeiters are producing fake versions. We have the opportunity with this technology, and we'll talk about why in a second, to quell that. All right, to ensure that the product in somebody's hands was created by the company they think it was created by. And then tracing. Tracking and tracing is a buzzword we hear about a lot. It gets into more of the supply chain side of a product's journey, where products can be identified at different stages of the supply chain and reported upon. What do you want to do that for? Well, we'll talk about some ideas in just a second. So here's how it works, all right? So what you see here might look like a regular QR code with a thing stuck in the middle, but it's not, all right? ScanTrust technology allows us to put unique serialized QR codes on every single pouch. And I can't stress the capabilities that brings to our brands enough. It essentially gives every pouch its own unique digital identity. So I can identify not just a lot or a warehouse's distribution, I can identify an individual pouch. And I can tell you, because of this secure graphic in the center of that QR code, whether that pouch was printed in Sacramento or Jakarta. Think of the opportunities that we may have in product verification, in supply chain management, and authentication. It really is quite something. So what we ask our brands to allocate simple 1 square centimeter of white space somewhere on their pouch. And it can get into quite a conversation as to how we execute that. Should it be on the front of the pouch, the back of the pouch, the side of the pouch, the gusset? And this is where we get into more of a consultative conversation with our brands, where we help them, small and medium brands, mind you, that may not have a vice president of marketing, who are just really good at making granola with whiskey in it. So we are often consulting with them on use case scenarios. How do we pull it off? What's the best way for you to design? And to overcome what you might experience as a little bit of a stigma against QR code utilization over the past 10 years, help them draw attention and create marketing calls to action that actually encourage their customers to click on things. One thing that's come out of COVID is that we've learned that QR codes have a little bit more of a payoff nowadays. You go to restaurants and the menu's accessible via QR code. We're trying to build on that, all right, by calling attention to and offers to a consumer's experience with that QR code. There are several things, you can peruse them on your own, but those individual value propositions really come down to our brand's why story. We're really focused on our why. We're trying to help the small business. Well, in order to do that, we have to look through them to their consumers and why they may be purchasing from them. Is it environmental message? Is it a product sourcing message? Or in cannabis or in other goods, are we trying to ensure the validity or the provenance of a product as it's made its way from an online retailer into that customer's hands? And all the while, we create engagement opportunities, collect customers' email, sign up for newsletters, and help these small brands build a marketing machine that they can then build on and use over time. So I wanted to be quick because we'll be talking about this in a little bit more detail with Nathan in a second. But please allow me to introduce Mac Anderson. Mac is at Cleveland Kitchen. He's the CMO, as we talked about earlier. We're just going to let him riff for a little while and talk about his organization, his company, how they were formed, where they're going, how connected packaging aims to help them in the future. So Mac, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Carl, as well. Thank you guys all for having me. Really excited to be here on behalf of Cleveland Kitchen and Epact as well. We've, in our young company's history, we've been lucky enough to partner with some great folks on the packaging end, and we're really tremendously excited about our partnership with Epact for a number of reasons. And, I'll dive into all those and give you a little bit of a background in our history. First, I'm going to give you just a snapshot of what our products do look like, the array. I know we did speak about some of our dressings. I believe you're seeing our packaging here, but we've got 6 varieties of sauerkraut today, a line of 5 as was noted earlier by James, 5 fermented dressings, and then some new products coming to market soon, as well as our brand new kimchi. So really exciting things. And my brothers and I actually, we started this company back in 2014. So even a little bit before Epact, just at our local farmers markets here in Cleveland, Ohio. My brother and myself, our story kind of starts way before that. My mother is definitely where we get our entrepreneurial spirit. She was a chef and biologist, and she was dragging us out to the network of farmers here in Northeast Ohio, to farm country every weekend, to just make sure she was getting great fresh produce, key ingredients that were sourced directly from farmers that had the best nutritional benefit. And she started to realize, well, before we had anything like a Whole Foods, or before Walmart, who's now the leader in organic produce, was that she started to realize there was a market for that. And so she started the network of farmers markets here in Northeast Ohio, a nonprofit called North Union Farmers Market. So child labor laws aside, from 4 years old on, my brothers and I were out there schlepping produce and working with farmers every single morning. And it was always our built-in summer and weekend job. And we quickly started to notice, new food companies coming to market, much like all the folks that you saw in that video, especially the granola resonates with that, with makers, having this phenomenal recipe they're making at home, they're making in small batches for friends and family. And then they start to, test the market. And we started to see those, how they were packaging it, what made a great food product, how they were engaging with consumers, with the rise of social media, how brands were starting to leverage that to really build out their platform. And we'd really take notice when those brands would start to pop up on grocery store shelves. That always stuck with us. My older brother and CEO ended up, leaving Cleveland after college. He went into banking, and he was kind of missing the traditional Eastern European and Midwest fare that we have here. So sauerkraut, kielbasi, pierogi, all those great things. And he was making all those things in his apartment after long banking hours, and really fell in love with the art of fermentation, cutting up fresh vegetables and letting it ferment for 2 weeks with spices, and not only the way, how crunchy and fresh flavored it was, but how delicious and how good it did make him feel. So we actually launched into, he taught me how to, after falling in love when I was at college. My buddies, my housemates, senior year, were wondering what the heck was going on in our kitchen, what was bubbling away. But come barbecue season, they loved the fresh crunch and flavor. And then afterwards, I also moved back to Cleveland right when he did. I was in finance. He moved home to a bank, and he was, working, long hours again. Actually met my brother-in-law, who was an architect and had that heritage, and we found out he was making sauerkraut as well. So we thought, hey, let's start this out as a side hustle, much like a lot of these early makers at the farmers markets, and let's see where we can take this. And so we ended up launching, and what really kept us going through, leaving 7 p.m. 4 nights a week from our jobs, working till 2 a.m. and selling on the weekends, was the fact that folks kept coming back for more of their favorites. For the different usage occasions were well beyond just a Reuben or any kind of hot dog a few times a year, but rather our fermented vegetables were going on eggs in the morning, wraps, fish tacos, salads, sandwiches, rice dishes, you name it. And so we really saw that usage occasion, start to come along. And so we launched with our first packaging into retail at the end of 2015. That first packaging was a glass jar with a nice logo on it. But what we quickly realized as we expanded, our first retail chain was about 20 stores here in Northeast Ohio, being Heinen's. As we expanded, not only was it extremely tough to get, that glass in, we found out how tedious it was to supply, what it took from a carbon perspective to ship all those in, but also because our goods are naturally fermented, they do breathe. So we needed a vent, something that allowed it to escape, the CO2 to escape, and we turned to a stand-up pouch with a breathable vent, so something very custom, but it also created a new home for ferments. It really leveled up what our brand offering was, and that was something that was totally different from traditional mushy sauerkraut, and something that was, fresh, vibrant, something that would really capture the eye and capture our key consumer on shelf. Today, we are the #1 brand in premium refrigerated sauerkraut in the nation. We're in about 10,000 stores nationwide. all across United States. And then we're in about 8 European countries with the military commissary. Starting with Epact, one of the great pieces of that partnership, as has been noted, is not only can we quickly test and iterate on flavors, if we want to make quick changes into, hey, we noticed with our kimchi, for instance, as you can kind of see here, it's a very vibrant colorway. It's, you know, it's gochujara pepper, so it's going to be naturally very red and coming through. So we needed to actually plus up and change a little top band, and Epact was able to get that done for us right away. And now with the connected packaging, not only does it let us, you know, give consumers right either at shelf or at home these fantastic new usage occasions, these fantastic ways to use our recipes, our content, you know, in the marketplace is phenomenal. But it also lets us tell the story about the fact that we are producing products that all of our cabbage comes from right here in the Midwest in season. We follow the farms in the season right down to Florida, so it is all American made. And now, as Epact has its Cleveland location, we can say that not only is our cabbage, our spices, our fermentation take place right here in this city, but now our packaging is even manufactured and shipped to us right from this city. So we've actually started a test case with Walmart, who is a fantastic partner of ours. We're in about 1,600 of their stores today. To show how sustainable we are, how much we're cutting, you know, our carbon footprint by not only, you know, having our vegetables sourced from right in state for much of the season, but also having our packaging in there as well. And we hope to be able to one day tell our consumers that story through the connected packaging. And it's been a phenomenal opportunity for us to be able to work with Epact, to be able to roll these small minimums. And just watching that video, you know, really cool to see Dustin, who I met actually on from Protein Powder on a visit to Canada for the import group. And we went to, you know, Sobeys, we went to all throughout Toronto to Longo. So it was a really great time for us to see, and it's great to see that they're working with such a fantastic brand. And what Epact allows us to do as a small brand to continue to be nimble, to continue to take market share and roll out and test things, as well as connect further with our consumers is, you know, we love to do so at store, on shelf, beyond social media. So if there's any questions I can help answer, I'd love to do so. But we're extremely excited about the future with Epact here.
Outstanding. Well, so if Mac was standing next to his products on the shelves in every one of those, when you say 10,000 stores, then he first of all, he'd take a lot of time to sell the products, but his company, his customers would be extraordinarily loyal. And one of the things that I stress here is that your story is so much bigger than your pouch, and that entire like origin story and the history of Cleveland Kitchen and where you want to take it is something a consumer can get in a glimpse via social media or by Googling you. But we take the bridge and we shorten it. We shorten the bridge between, when we're talking about consumer engagement, we shorten the bridge between your consumer and the story you want them to hear. If they are pre-sales, they haven't bought yet, maybe they want to hear your sourcing story, your commitment to the environment, things that are going to make them break your way in a retail store. If they've already got it, if they've ordered it online, they've already purchased the product, maybe that story is more about use cases and recipes. And there's no reason why you can't have both at the same time. But hearing Matt go through the history of, and the future of Cleveland Kitchen, that's a compelling story. And I love the fact that with connected packaging, we have the opportunity to shorten the bridge between his consumers and just a simply wonderful message. All right. Next along the line here, we have our very good friend and partner, Nathan Anderson, no relation to Mac Anderson, at ScanTrust. I'm going to do my best to keep up with his talk track and flip his slides for him. But Nathan, the floor is yours.
Great, thanks Ryan, and everyone. I can't seem to start my video here, so maybe one of the tech folks behind can do that for me. But I'll just continue on. Looks like I was muted again as well. And so happy to be here and share more about ScanTrust, and here I am. Good to see you all now, finally. ScanTrust, what we are is we are a connected packaging and products platform. And really what that means at the heart of what we're trying to do is connect people with the products that they use every day. And essentially we're doing that by enabling brands to have the tools they need to allow their end customers to trust the source, the safety, and the integrity of the products they're using in their life. We started this journey around 7 years ago, headquartered in Lausanne, Switzerland, and we're now serving all over the globe. And I think so a lot of the insights that I'll be sharing about what we're seeing in the trends of connected packaging really is a global perspective. We're now have projects in over 185 countries. We have presence in the Americas, Europe, and throughout Asia. And there's really two components of what we're providing. One is that connected goods packaging platform that we use as think of it as a tool, as a middleware for brands to communicate, or also can be used by partners of ours like Epact, where essentially we're offering the building blocks for them to provide enhanced services and value to their ecosystem and community of customers who would want to use that. And we serve a very diverse, not only geographically, but in terms of the type of customers we work with. It's a very diverse type of clients and customers. Ryan, if you could move to the next one. We work across, of course, CPG and food and beverage products, many of the products that Carl and Ryan and Mac mentioned already, but we also work with industrial good companies, people, products that maybe you wouldn't buy in the shelf or off Amazon, but are more industrial B2B products, luxury good products, industrial and agro. So really anything that's physical, that is moving through a supply chain, that has multiple stakeholders in that process, from the manufacturer to distributors, retailers, and ultimately end consumers, and increasingly recycling as well, being kind of the cradle to grave aspect of it as well. It's a diverse type of customers, but really no matter which type of customer we're working with, they're all being driven by a similar need of why they're embracing connected packaging. And that is the shifting consumer behaviors we see across the globe, across all demographics, all geographies, all types of products. And it's no mystery to anyone right now that we live in a highly digitized world, a world that has been accelerated by the catalyst event of COVID-19 to become even more digital. And really what we've seen, especially when you talk about CPG or food and beverage companies, but all products, is that technology has shifted the power dynamics from brands to consumers. The classic, let's think of the old Mad Men era type advertising is coming in. While that still exists to a certain degree, what we see is that consumers are feeling more empowered. They have the tools available to them to be able to access information about the products they're buying or using, and they're becoming to expect that. And when you see a lot over the stats, such as around only 7% of people trust global food supply chains, for example, and there's many other stats about this, but that consumers are looking for brands to be more transparent with them, to share more about their products. And this is exactly where connected packaging comes in. And what we see is that a trend is that connected packaging as a channel, as a pillar, is becoming a strategic pillar both on marketing MarTech stack, when you use it as a trusted channel to communicate with your consumers, alongside TV, print, media, etc. The packaging is something that each and every person who uses your product is interacting with, and leveraging that to drive a direct consumer engagement relationship. But it's also being used in the supply chain tech stack as well, as a tool to not only enable that direct connection with consumers, but act as a tool to help bring more visibility to how your products are moving through the supply chain, protect them against counterfeits if that is a challenge, as well as to gain more visibility on your internal efficiencies as well. Now, I was going to share a quick use case example, but the slides seem to have gone away. Let's see if I can share here myself and take this back. It looks like I can. Fantastic. One example, of course, since we're talking flexible packaging here, I wanted to share an example of a project we did with flexible packaging with a fairly large company, Unilever. In specifically, this project was done in Vietnam, and what they were facing, they had there was just across the nation there was growing concerns about food safety in general, not Knorr products specifically, and consumers were wanting to know more about the pork and the food that was in their products, and Unilever had spent a tremendous amount of money actually to create a very sustainable and high quality supply chain of the ingredients that were going into their products. But what they were seeing is they didn't feel that the market was really appreciating this story. And so what we ended up doing is putting a unique QR code on every single pouch or sachet of this product, and then allowed consumers to scan this code to see the story and tell about the narrative of that particular product. And what we did is we also were able to connect all of the information going back to the pork farm, to the processing facilities, to the production facilities, and even the downstream supply chain to allow each and every pack to have a personal journey. And so when a consumer scanned a product, not only would they see nutritional information or general marketing materials, but they would actually even see a whole map providing the journey of that individual sachet or that packet. So if you were to scan it today and you were to buy a product a few weeks or a month from now, you would actually see a completely different journey. And ultimately, this was widely successful. It brought a tremendous amount of visibility to the brand. The trust in the Knorr brand in Vietnam increased significantly. 80% of those who had engaged with the PAC and came back found that they trusted the Knorr brand more with this program, and ultimately it helped them increase their market share. And drive revenue beyond just building more trust and brand loyalty. And that's really at the core of what we want our software to do. People don't know it's ScanTrust behind it, and that's fine. We're just enabling this for brands and consumers to connect directly with the products and share more information about that. And a common question I get so much, and Ryan kind of touched on this, and especially in Western Europe and the US, is like, okay, I know what a QR code is, or in Canada, I know what a QR code is, but I've never scanned one. People don't scan it. And it's true that it's not like you put a QR code or some sort of connectivity to your packaging and each and every person is going to engage and you're going to know and contact with each and every one of your customers. That's not the case. But what we see is that a statistically significant number of customers do interact via QR codes, and it's very much so been increasing drastically since the pandemic began. As Ryan already alluded to, around the world, QR codes have seen a renaissance, if you will, of usage as people recognize more of the value. And in Asia, in the projects we've done in Asia, people have already been using this for years, and it's not because Asians like to use QR codes more. It was just that how they were being used, because it was when it came to the market, it was kind of a leapfrog technology. There was always a value behind it, right? The consumers knew if I scan a QR code, there's some sort of value I'm going to get, whether to authenticate my product, to learn about the provenance of the product, to maybe engage with the loyalty program and earn some rewards, or even get specialized content that's relevant to them as a buyer. And we're starting to see that trend change drastically, especially with millennials and Generation Z in Western Europe and the US. And so on this slide right here, and I'll let you read through them yourself, but what we're seeing is that connected packaging in general as a channel compared to more traditional channels, whether it be social media, print, TV, radio, newsletters, has significantly higher engagement rates, significantly higher conversion rates on whatever activity you're doing. So as a channel, it is not only a cost-effective and scalable channel, one that you can touch on every single one of your customers via packaging, but it's extremely effective channel as well. And this is why we're seeing that, like I said, that connected packaging in general is becoming a pillar, not something gimmicky that brands are starting to implement within their product and packaging. So I'll stop there. I see that we already have some Q&A in the panel, so happy to jump into that with Carl, Ryan, and Mac.
Okay, I think we can take the slides down. Thanks very much. Mac, you want to join us, and Ryan, please?
I'm gonna stay off of video if it's okay with you, Jim. I'm coming to you live from a hotspot. I lost power in the middle of that, in the middle of Nathan's presentation.
Okay, I knew something happened there, but good to have you back, Ryan.
Or who was that, Ryan or Mac? Are you with us, Mac?
That was Ryan speaking.
Okay, Mac, if you're with us, please join us. If you wish to do so, we'd love to have you. First and foremost, wow, that was a whirlwind story. And I think the thing that's amazing to me about it is that in many ways, not only are you digitally connected, but there's some kind of connection going on here with Epact is 5 years. I think I heard Mac talking about 6 years. I think I heard Nathan talking about 7 years. And it seems to me that, success breeds success. So obviously you're connected to each other and helping each other on this journey. And I think it's a wonderful story to listen to all 5 of you, or all 4 of you, I should say. So congratulations, first and foremost. Digitally connected packaging has been something that's been important to us and we've been talking about for a long time. I guess it started off as smart packaging and now it's digitally connected, or connected is the nomenclature of the day. But Carl, I mean, let's go back to your core value proposition. First of all, I love it. I've told you that 50 times. I know I sound crazy when I say that, but as a packaging geek my whole career, you've really put the formula together. It's magical. It's an amazing story. And, you 25 facilities in 5 years.
Yeah.
What's it going to be in another 5?
Well, we hope to keep replicating. At the pace that we're on, we've been doubling our capacity and our volume really every year, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down. The international, there's all kinds of places that we have discussions going on internationally. We're not in South America, Latin America yet. There's all kinds of market opportunities in Europe and Asia Pacific. We're in Ghana, and we suspect that we'll be expanding in Africa. So to be honest with you, there are, as we said in the video, there are just thousands and thousands of these small and medium-sized brands that really need a helping hand to be able to compete with these global brands. Small and medium-sized brands are growing at probably, 10%, rough give or take, per year, according to the research that I've read. And you compare that to the global brands, and it's under 1%. So it's a growing market, and we're helping that growing market grow even faster.
Thank you. I'd like to jump ahead to Mac. I'm assuming you're with us, Mac? Maybe not. Okay, I was going to ask him the e-commerce question. Certainly, Nate, you talked about what COVID's done with QR codes, and we've all been into restaurants and there's no menus anymore and you've got to scan it and so on and so forth. But it seems to me that this connected world or short run world has really created a whole new massive generation of entrepreneurs, new businesses. And Mac, if you want to, this is really, I targeted you, but the growth of your business, where I was going to go with it really was the e-commerce component of it as well. Has that been a big factor for you, especially in the last, let's call it COVID world of the last 18 months?
Yeah, definitely. There's been a large increase in our e-commerce business, that side of the business. I'd say more so it's us partnering with, the Instacarts of the world, the Walmart online pickup and deliveries of the world that solve the final mile distribution challenge for us, as we are a totally refrigerated cold chain product. It's totally, transitioned how much business of ours. I think 20 to 25% of our products from Walmart are purchased on delivery and pickup. So that's been phenomenal for us. And we've definitely seen our engagement digitally shift, obviously, from being able to get out and get in front of consumers at different events. And we're frequented NFL games and tailgates with our offerings, to pushing everything digitally and to telling those stories and really reaching out and resonating with consumers that way. It has totally shifted, definitely with COVID.
Yeah, just go back to the the value of Epact Connect, its packaging solution. What role does that play in the process for you?
Yeah, no, I'd say it allows us to, in those places as a brand that is native of a farmer's market and has such a culinary aspect. For us, one of the larger challenges is getting consumers to understand the larger usage occasions and what to throw sauerkraut onto and what recipes to use their new kimchi and these dressings on. So being able to, have an easy to scan opportunity to connect with them, to give them recipes, to give them nutritional inputs and ways to use it has been huge for us. And it just allows us to really expand our platform into the consumer's home rather than just being, on social media or at shelf. So it's helped us really resonate and connect with consumers a ton.
That's great news. I love your story. That's a great family story, and especially about your mother and taking you to the markets on the weekends as youngsters. And you've learned well, that's for sure. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Nice personal story. Nate, lots emerging in your world. Talk about QR codes for a minute. Is QR code a product? Is it a generic product that ScanTrust manufactures, or is it your product? Or just talk about the connection there a little bit.
Yeah, well, QR codes are not a new thing. They've had multiple lives, like a cat. They've been around since 1994.
Like it's actually a code, I guess, originally.
Right. Well, yeah. Barcodes in general, yes, have been around for a while, but QR codes were invented in 1994, actually by Toyota, a division of Toyota, for supply chain traceability of automotive parts, and they open source this technology. Actually, so it's a technology that anyone can build and develop a generic QR code. Now, what we do at ScanTrust really is two aspects, and we alluded to it briefly in the presentations. One is we actually developed a proprietary type of QR code, where there was a picture which we call the secure graphic, if you remember one of Ryan's slide, in the middle of the QR code. And what this does is two important things. One, it allows the QR code still to be scanned. So if you take out your camera app on Android or iOS and scan it, you can still go to a website very easily, that easy connectivity that Mac was referring to. But then if you scan it with a dedicated application, you can authenticate if that barcode is an originally printed barcode or not. This is the security behind it. And this is a proprietary technology that we've developed, but it's readily accessible via your smartphone. And then beyond this, though, QR codes have been around, like I said, around for a long time, but generating a QR code is fairly trivial. But if you want to generate these at scale and have the ability for this to be used for multiple use cases across your business or connecting with consumers for supply chain traceability, authentication, you do need a platform that is managing the life cycle of this unique digital identity. We also see a rise of RFID and NFC as well, but in general, QR codes far is outpacing them. And it's something that has been used for years, as I mentioned, in Asia with consumers. I lived in China for 12 years. That's when I first got connected into using QR codes and seeing the value of them. And I think many of the trends that we've seen already emerge in places like China, South Korea, Japan, Southeast Asia are now coming in full force, in a way coming back in full force in the Americas and Western Europe.
Yeah, it's fascinating to watch. So you've got a QR code built into a QR code, proprietary QR code kind of.
In a way, code in a code in a code. You can't get enough.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I like that idea. So what's the medium to long term game here? Is there going to be a winner with I don't know if you saw the Digimark presentation earlier today.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We saw earlier today. We also had Kellogg talking about the Navi lens, and so there's just so many of these concepts emerging. Is there going to be an all-in-one winner at the end of the day, or where's it going?
No, I don't think so. And I think, in view, I love to see technologies such as Digimark that are emerging. I think in terms of what we do at ScanTrust, we view that as quite complementary in a way, actually, because the concept, we might have a ScanTrust proprietary QR code right now, but that's only maybe about 40 or 50% of our projects. And really what I see as a trend and what we see emerging is the concept of a unique digital identity on your packaging, whether it be a QR code, a Digimark, a digital watermark, RFID, NFC, or as we start to have more Google glasses and Facebook glasses, I'm sure there's going to be ways to interact with packaging that way in the future, right? And our vision at Skintrust, it doesn't matter what the medium to connect is, and I'm sure that will change over the time. QR codes are certainly the dominant tool today, and I think will be for various reasons in the near future, 3 to 5 years perhaps. But over time, it's less about what tool you're using to connect and making sure you have a platform to manage that and be able to utilize that unique digital ID in a powerful and meaningful way for your business and your consumers. Like I said, it will evolve over time, but what we're seeing very clearly in multiple industries is that companies are moving from kind of batch or lot level identification to unit level identification and marking for various business purposes, both internal and external.
So finally, mass customization or mass personalization is finally happening. I mean, it's been interesting. I mean, I traded the story with Carl because when I was in the packaging business like a long time, but I looked at digital printing in 2000 and it was just way too early. Nobody understood it. Nobody got it. And I think part of the problem was that it was really because it wasn't connected. Is the connection or the digital connection, is that the glue that's finally pulled it all together in your mind?
You mentioned Epact been around for five years or so, Max Company 6, Scantra 7. And there's a partial reason for that because there has been a convergence of technologies. If you look at what's being done with Epact Connect right now, you would need the technology, the ability to do digital printing, to do that easy variable data printing at scale in a personalized way. That didn't exist several years ago. You also have seen the convergence of mobility in terms of everyone having a smartphone and internet connectivity in their hand, the familiarity with cloud computing technologies, it's a convergence of multiple technologies that really emerged, over the past decade that's allowed to enable this, and it's just continuing to pick up speed.
Yeah, and Sam touched on that from Procter & Gamble earlier today, where she said it really, when the smartphone came along, it was really a major conduit. Gentlemen, thank you. This has been amazing. I love this story from all of you, and it's so connected, literally. And let's take 1 minute each and go around and just what's the most important message you'd like to leave behind to our audience and to our packaging community? Let's start at the front end of the supply chain. Carl?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jim. I think, coming into this, our message it started really with the notion that we've been highly disruptive of the flexible packaging industry. We've grown from 0 customers to over 5,000 today, 25 plants, multiple countries, and so forth. And with our focus being on the growth of small and medium-sized brands, we really do want to take advantage of connected packaging technology to be able to help these brands get to that level. I would say that we talked about partnering with a lot of these connected packaging providers. Virtually all of them are focused on large brands and 6-figure per year license fees. It wasn't until we found Nathan and Scantrust, where he and I both happen to come from Vermont, and we started to talk about our view of the world and our view of the importance of SMBs in the market. And so we're trying to use connected packaging as a means to help them get to that next level.
Near and dear to my heart. Great comments, and thank you. Mac, I want to try some of that sauerkraut, man.
Yeah, you'll have to.
Yeah.
It's definitely the best around. So yeah, I'd like to just say, definitely support your small local businesses. You never know how they'll turn out. It's a big, flag of pride for us to be able to, from starting from farmers markets to now employing 45 folks and being able to sustainably do so with the help of Epact and, our growers, and take a product that literally makes folks healthier with every bite, nationwide here and hopefully up in Canada soon. So yeah, eat your ferments and smoke or support your local businesses. That's my word of advice here.
Fix your gut. I love it on German sausage, so thank you. Ryan?
I'll just build off what Carl said. I mean, the growth here at Epact it's all built around the why and helping these small businesses grow. And when it comes to connected packaging, that's just one of the ways that we're doing that. You could look at Epact as a technology company that makes pouches. You could look in them as a pouch company that has extraordinary technology and partners. But connected packaging I see as being an umbrella of available options. But there's a lot of infrastructure behind Epact that makes it all work. The technology component, just like the transition of offset to digital or analog to digital wide format, this transition from traditional to digital packaging requires that infrastructure, and we're very proud of the one we've built.
Well, you should be. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant story and a brilliant strategy. Nathan, pull it all together for us, man. Connect it for us, Nathan.
Oh yeah, no pressure. So I'm going to continue off something that Ashley actually said in her closing comments from Walmart in the last presentation, which is that we are all consumers, right? And at the end of the day, and I think what has drawn us really to the Epact ecosystem and what drives us at Scantrust every day is we realize all of us are consumers, and we think about what it is that we want from our day-to-day life. What do we want to know from our products? And each product has a story to tell. And that there is a power in connecting that story from that product and that brand to that end customer, that end consumer, that person, the people. And there are amazing technologies that are available today. Epact is a fantastic example of creating an ecosystem really to enable this at scale in ways that are much easier than had ever been done before. And that brands have the tools available to them now to have a more meaningful conversation and interaction with their customers, and packaging can help enable that.
Nathan, thank you very much. And I'd like to thank all of the attendees from today and from last week that have been part of this. This is a great closing session. Carl, thank you. Mac, Ryan, Nathan, and really appreciate your contribution. So you can see our publication there on the screen, fellas. We call it PAC Connect. So we must be doing something right. And I don't know what it is, Epact and PAC. And I have to say, though, that Carl, PAC's been around since 1950. So it's not new, but we certainly don't have the success story that you can tell that you've shared with us today. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jim. It's something I should have mentioned. We'll be sending an announcement out in the next day or so. But Epact Toronto opens in 2 weeks. So our second Canadian operation, in addition to the first one in Vancouver, will be up and running.
Well, our job is we're going global just like you are. And I'm going to reach out to you, Nate. I think you can help us to get global. And, we have a very large presence in North America now, and we want to go beyond. And I'd love to follow all of your growth models. So that would be a great success story. So congratulations to the four of you. It's a great way to finish our day. And I just over and out, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.